Everyone thinks bread came before beer. Humans settled, grew grain, learned to bake, built society, and somewhere after all that figured out fermentation. Then in 2018, a discovery in a cave changed all of that. Researchers excavating Raqefet Cave near Haifa found stone mortars carved directly into the bedrock floor. Inside the mortars, wheat and barley residue. Soaked, germinated, fermented. That's beer brewed in a cave 13,000 years ago. The cave belonged to the Natufians, roughly 13,000 years ago. They hadn't invented farming, still hunting, still gathering wild grain by hand. These people were already brewing beer 4,000 years before farming appeared in their region. To understand how, look at what fermentation actually needs. Wild yeast lives on grain husks and fruit skin. It drifts through the air. Grain gets wet, sits for a few days, yeast converts the sugars to alcohol on its own. No technology needed, no chemistry degree. The grain just does it. You just need to notice that wet grain smells different after 3 days and that the liquid draining from it does something unexpected to you. That observation happened independently on every inhabited continent, with no contact between those people. Europe, the Americas, East Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, every culture archaeologists have found made alcohol. The reason this happened everywhere goes back 10 million years. We'll get there. Around 12,000 years ago, people in southeastern Turkey began building Göbekli Tepe. Stone pillars 5 meters tall, some over 10 tons, carved with animals, standing in perfect circles. The builders were nomads, no permanent homes, no farmed crops, no pottery, no reason to build anything. And yet, hauling 10-ton stone blocks up a hill, that's hundreds of people, years of work. For years, researchers couldn't figure out why nomads would bother. Then in 2017, they found large stone vessels right at the site. Residue analysis, fermented grain, enough for hundreds of people at once. Researchers concluded Göbekli Tepe was a seasonal gathering spot, rituals, shared meals. People came from across the region, brewed together, ate together. They built permanent stone structures here, not homes, a venue. Raqefet and Göbekli Tepe both show it. People brewed before farming existed, and clearly thought it was worth the effort. Before farming, before cities, before bread. Patrick McGovern is a researcher at the University of Pennsylvania Museum. Since the 1980s, he's been testing residue from ancient vessels around the world, 6 continents. His core argument, built across decades, and his book 2009, Uncorking the Past, the desire to brew is what drove humans to settle down and farm. To bake bread, grind the grain, mix in fat and liquid, shape the dough, hold the heat long enough. To ferment grain, soak it in water, then leave it alone. Biology does the rest. McGovern says nomads already loved fermented grain. The ability to make it reliably over and over, that outweighed everything else. Over the past 20 years, more and more researchers have backed this, though the debate continues. Bread or beer? Which came first? Drop your answer in the comments right now. The oldest confirmed alcohol recipe on Earth, Jiahu village, Henan province, central China. McGovern's lab published the analysis in 2004 from residue pulled out of pottery jars found there. Ingredients: rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn berries all fermented together. 4 ingredients deliberately combined. That doesn't happen by accident. Whoever made this had tried enough combinations to know what worked and remembered it. A recipe, locked in pottery residue, underground for 9,000 years. By 3000 BCE, beer was woven into Egyptian civilization. You can't miss it in the record. Workers building the Giza pyramids got 4 to 5 liters of beer per day. That was their pay. In the 1990s, archaeologists dug up the workers' settlement at Giza and found a brewery, thousands of liters per batch, exactly enough to feed the whole workforce. It made practical sense. Nile water was often contaminated. Brewing involves heating the liquid. Most bacteria die in the process. For workers hauling stone in the desert, beer meant water, calories, and protection from disease, all in one daily ration. Egyptian papyri have prescriptions, beer mixed of herbs, for stomach pain, wounds, infections. Temples offered beer to Osiris. Egyptians believed Osiris gave humanity beer directly. Salary, medicine, religious offering, all from grains soaked in water and left to sit. Now go back much further. In 2014, biologist Robert Dudley at the University of Berkeley published what he called the drunken monkey hypothesis. That's the actual name. That's what it's called. Overripe fruit ferments on the ground. Yeast on the skin eats the sugar and produces alcohol. Primates eating fallen fruit got small, regular doses of alcohol for millions of years. Researchers found that around 10 million years ago, the common ancestor of humans, chimps, and gorillas got a mutation in gene ADH4. That mutation made the enzyme that breaks down alcohol roughly 40 times more effective. The body adapted to constant contact with alcohol. The pull toward fermented food got written into our DNA millions of years before anyone brewed intentionally. That pull is older than any split between human groups. Every continent, every language, every single one. Every culture studied made alcohol independently from whatever grew nearby. Europe, grapes and grain; Americas, corn, agave and cassava; East Asia, rice and millet; Africa, sorghum and honey. Different plants, different methods, same genetic impulse underneath. So here's what the evidence actually shows. 10 million years ago, our ancestor got better at processing alcohol because millions of years of eating fermented fruit off the ground. 13,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers already brewing before the first planted crop. 12,000 years ago, nomads build massive stone structures, brewing vessels at the center. 7,000 years ago, a 4-ingredient recipe, consistent, repeatable. 5,000 years ago, the biggest civilization on Earth pays in beer, heals with beer, prays with beer. The standard story puts alcohol after civilization. The evidence says brewing came before farming, fermentation before both. The craving is 10 million years old. The civilization that supposedly came first is much younger. The cup changed over thousands of years. The yeast is still doing exactly what it did 10 million years ago. If this changed how you see history, subscribe. We cover exactly this kind of thing.